Friday, March 25th, 2022. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden and NATO leaders meeting in Brussels have announced a series of steps to respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Jeff Murdoch reports NATO members described the measures as preventative, proportionate, and non-escalatory. They agreed to deploy more combat-ready forces to the alliance's eastern flank, doubling the number of battle groups to 8. The allies also said they would send equipment to protect against a chemical weapons attack. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg insisted the alliance was determined to do all it can to support Ukraine, but that didn't include much of what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has requested. Ben Wolfgang reports Stoltenberg and Biden have consistently ruled out a NATO-enforced no-fly zone over Ukraine's skies or the deployment of NATO troops to Ukraine. They fear it could lead Russian President Vladimir Putin to expand the war across Eastern Europe. Zelensky pleaded in a video address to the summit for NATO to do more to help stop the bombings and civilian deaths in Kyiv and other major Ukrainian cities. He expressed gratitude for NATO's support, but immediately added that it fell far short of what Ukraine's outmanned forces needed. To address the worsening humanitarian crisis from the war, the White House announced plans to welcome 100,000 Ukrainians that have been fleeing their country. Stephen Dinan reports senior American officials said most Ukrainians likely want to remain near their home, but the U.S. can help relieve pressure on European nations that are taking in the largest number of displaced people since World War II. Ukrainian refugees have joined more than 75,000 Afghans airlifted to the United States last year, as well as tens of thousands of Venezuelans and Haitians who have been granted special protections for fleeing conflicts. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. If you don't have access to the Times yet, you can visit WashingtonTimes.com/George for a special subscription offer. Black House Democrats are warning that the results of the November election will be tainted by the suppression of minority voters in Republican-run states. Mika Selner reports they say new election laws in several Republican-led states will sway the midterms in the party's favor at the expense of Black and Hispanic voters who typically favor Democrats. The Congressional Black Caucus lawmakers say that shorter early voting periods, reduced polling hours, and stricter requirements for mail-in ballots disproportionately deter minorities from voting. Former President Trump is suing Hillary Clinton and others involved in accusations that his campaign worked with Russia to meddle in the 2016 presidential election. Alex Schroyer reports the lawsuit claims the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, among others, somehow prevented the president from doing his job while in office. The accusations led to a 2-year investigation headed by special counsel Robert Mueller, which didn't result in any criminal charges against Trump or his family. And finally, Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney isn't attending this year's annual House Republican retreat. Kerry Pickett reports Cheney was instead in Jackson, Wyoming, taking questions and giving remarks about U.S. elections on a panel Tuesday night, and appeared to deliver remarks at Chatham University in Pittsburgh on Thursday. Cheney has been ostracized from the Republican Party for pointing out what she says is its dangerous fealty to Trump. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us on any major podcast platform. Just search Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.